Thanks so much for having me here. As y'all are walking in, we left it's an economic pulse, and it's a report we put out every month. And the goal of the pulse is to kind of give our customers and people in our area better economic information so they can make better economic decisions. And we hope it helps people out as they make those decisions, and hopefully the information in it is pretty current and timely. And as you can tell, I'm just pretty much going to go off whatever the pulse says. Amarillo's economy this fall is definitely improving. It's getting a lot stronger from where it was at the bottom of the recession, which started about September 2008. The most important driver to our economy is jobs, and this October, Amarillo had 2,900 more jobs than we did last October, and those were in all industries: agriculture, business, manufacturing, education, healthcare. We saw increases in job levels in all those, and that's so important to our area and such a good sign for the economy. Bell Helicopter and Owens Corning continue to grow or bring back the very important the manufacturing jobs we talk about. And then another thing we look at is the wages. Wages in Amarillo have held up better than most parts of the country. Over the last 8 years, they're up 17%. And during the recession, starting in about 2007, wages are up 3% since then. And that's a very important thing just for the consumers and commerce in our area. And just to put comparable things on it, Lubbock's wages are down 1% since 2007, so that's good news for our area too. Retail sales are up 6% from last August and are flat year to date. Car dealers, they're having some problems. They're reporting really slow numbers this fall, but we are starting to hear some horror stories from some of our competition. We're hearing some really low loan rates, interest rates. We had really long maturities. We heard, I think, under 3% for 7 years. So while that is pretty much idiotic lending, hopefully that'll increase car sales. Construction in Amarillo has slowed down over the last couple of years, but we still have some big projects. Bell Helicopter continues to grow. And then big projects at the airport. You see some retail space going up, and then convenience stores going up. So all these things combined kind of give you an idea of what we feel like the economy in Amarillo is really improving. Agriculture is a big part of our economy, and it's something we follow really closely at the bank. And over the since about June, everybody in agriculture has seen, that they've been really enjoying it. Farmers, ranchers, dairymen, and feed yard operators are all having a good fall. The farmers' crops were strong this year due to well-timed moisture, and commodity prices are high. Feed yards are finally profitable. They had a dreadful 2 years, but starting about 6 months ago, feed yards started reporting profits, and that's real important for our area too. What we're seeing at the feed yards, though, is the profit margins are going to shrink over the next couple of months as these high commodity prices increase their input costs. Dairies are another important and growing part of our economy. I think south of here, we've seen a lot of growth in the dairy industry, and the dairymen, they're having a good fall. Milk production is up, and milk prices are up as well. And the dairies that survived the last 2 years are finally seeing some light, and now as bankers, what we look at, they're showing some strong equity in their borrowing basis, so that's going to give them good opportunities to grow and operate. One thing you're hearing about in the news all over, especially in the last couple of weeks, is inflation. And we look at that at a local level and also at the national level. But locally, we go out to the grocery stores and gas pumps and just kind of everywhere and do our own little inflation survey. Inflation in Amarillo is pretty flat. Over the last year, I think prices are only up 0.4%. So low inflation is good for everybody. But you keep hearing that, and then on the national level, they're saying inflation is low. But as far as that sticking around, the low inflation, that's pretty unreasonable. Higher inflation expectations are all around, and inflation's bound to hit, especially as this economy turns and if these interest rates stay low, inflation's going to come. And those higher inflation expectations will kind of cook into inflation in the near term. So I think we're going to start seeing a little more inflation as the winter comes along, and especially into the spring. And one thing I think we're going to start seeing is inflation in food. As these commodity prices really increased over the last couple months, that's going to go down to the consumer, probably starting sometime this winter. So we talked about the job growth in Amarillo and then some inflation in Amarillo. And then that's kind of where we go into another big thing that's going on in the news and banking is what the Federal Reserve's been doing the last couple of weeks. And since the Fed's dual mandate is to keep inflation low and employment high, they've kind of, the news is acting like the Fed has wandered from their mandate, but in a sense, I don't really think they have. What kind of happened at the start of the recession, they already lowered the interest rates to zero using their regular ways, and that's when they tweaked the overnight Fed funds rate, and that didn't really get anything going. So what Chairman Bernanke and the Fed did, they went to another option, and it's called quantitative easing. And what they're doing is just going out farther term and just medium term treasuries and just starting to buy those. And what this will do, it drives up the quantity demanded and shrinks the quantity supplied, which drives up the price and lowers the yield. And what they're trying to do, in a sense, is just lower borrowing costs for all borrowers, whether it's individuals, corporations, governments, everything. And they think by lowering the cost of capital, that'll increase the asset prices and increase their operating expenses, decrease their operating expenses. The Fed has realized that they can't kickstart the economy alone, so now they're going, like I said, to lower the cost of capital and increase stock prices. And this will allow companies to find their optimal capital structure. And what the optimal capital structure will do, it'll set them up for growth. Right now, tweaking with capital structure, it kind of artificially inflates these stock prices. But I think that's kind of what the Fed is trying to do, is put an artificial floor in the stock prices and even increase them, just to kind of get confidence going. Because the one thing that will get the economy going again is confidence, whether it's corporations or consumers. So once we start seeing that confidence increase, whether it's through the more efficient operations or higher stock prices, then we'll really see this economy take off. Another thing Professor Anwar wanted me to talk about was banking overall, but I don't know that much about banking nationally, so I'll just stick to banking in Amarillo and Canyon and the Panhandle. And one thing we've seen, banks in this area, especially the Panhandle, have done just fine. In fact, they've grown. They've outperformed the national banks on so many levels, it's kind of hard to compare them. But I think that goes to show you how strong our area's economy is, and also what good bankers we have in banks. And then most importantly, the customers. A lot of customers here are real risk averse. They don't borrow whatever they can get their hands on. They borrow exactly what they need. And when they see the recession coming, they slow down on their borrowing. They pay down their debt as fast as possible. So it's not so much strong banks that have kind of carried the area through this recession. It's the consumer. It's everybody here. I mean, it's the good people of the Panhandle who have really helped keep us isolated in this recession. Banks around here have kept their same very conservative loan standards throughout, and they didn't go out to other markets they didn't understand. A lot of these bank failures you're seeing are banks that were in one part of the country, and then they went out to a different part of the country because there was a certain kind of loan demand, whether it's commercial or residential real estate. And that's when you get in trouble, is when you get into markets that you don't understand. At our bank, our deposits are mostly flat with last year, and loan demand, it's ticking up a little bit. The loan competition, it's getting more and more intense out there, and that'll hopefully keep interest rates low for borrowers around here too. Consumer loans have gone down about 8% over the last year, but again, I think that's because the people in our area really kind of slow things down when they know the recession is going on, and if they're uncertain whether the recession is going to end. In our mortgage lending department, 2/3 of the activity over the last year has been refinance. A lot of people aren't going out there buying new homes, they're just refinancing what they have at these lower interest rates, and that's going to mean that we're not going to see either a rise or drop in house prices. Past due loans at our bank are exactly flat with last year, and loan losses are about half of what they were last year, and we have less non-accrual loans on our books. So that means a lot of our customers, their conditions are improving. They're able to pay down their debt, they're borrowing less, and just their operations are improving. So when that gets going and then they start hiring new jobs, that's why we think the economy is on a sustained path for growth over the next 6 months. Just when we get up and talk about these things, you can throw out all the numbers and give all the stats, but I think what it really boils down to is the people in this part of the country. They're good, hardworking people with high morals, high business ethics, and they really look out for each other. And I think that's the one thing that isolated us in this recession. It is just the good nature of the people over here, and it's something to be very proud of. Another thing that really helps out our economy is we have a strong Chamber of Commerce who's really beneficial to Amarillo and Canyon's business, and very importantly, you got to give them a lot of credit as our Amarillo Economic Development Corporation. They're the ones who brought in a lot of these manufacturing jobs, whether it's, you know, most of it is Bell Helicopter, but also other manufacturing jobs in our area. I think we have more than twice the number of manufacturing jobs that Lubbock and Dillon and Odessa have, and that's important. That sets us up for long-term growth. So just in closing, as far as Amarillo's economy is concerned, it's improving. It feels a lot better out there. There's a lot more confidence out there. I know there's a lot of negative news going on about the national economy, but people around here tend to ignore that kind of thing and just get going with their lives, and that's one reason we're going to come out of this recession a lot stronger than other parts of this country. Thank you.